This hair is so much worse on camera. I feel like a hard-boiled egg. I loved playing with colorful eyeshadows so much in my last video that I was like, yeah, let's try things that make us uncomfortable. I think I look absolutely horrendous like this, and all that said, here we are. This whole palette of 35 shades was $13.68. Definitely more on the affordable side. I'm curious to see how the colors are, how they'll blend. I don't want to swatch all of them just because I feel like when you swatch it and when you put it on your eyes are so different. But I will swatch maybe some of the shimmery shades to see what they look like. So I'm going to go into the purple one. Definitely more of a gritty texture. Definitely a little grainier. Not as creamy as the Hard Candy palette that I reviewed in this video right here. But I'm not going to be too tough on them yet. I'm going with a matte shade. Pretty good color payoff. I feel like it's definitely stuff we could work with. So let's see. Going in with a very big fluffy brush, I'm going to go in with something a little lighter first. This shade right here. And what's cool about Profusion is that they are cruelty-free and they're vegan. I've been trying to like shift my entire collection over to cruelty-free, but since I have so many products that I need to use up still that aren't cruelty-free, I'm just trying to use those all up first before, you know, buying more. But it's really awesome that like drugstore brands are cruelty-free. I really like that as a transition shade. Like, I feel like it suits my skin tone really well. There is a small amount of kick up, but not as much as like ColourPop shadows. But I really like how neutral this shade is. I think it'd be beautiful for like an everyday makeup look. Actually, just beautiful as a transition shade in general. Blendable, I don't see too many issues with this. But it's just a transition shade, so I really don't see anything wrong with this. And I am pulling it out just a bit more. I'm gonna deepen up my crease with a brown with the shade Likeable, this one right here. This one's definitely a little more warm. They blend together pretty nicely. And just deepening up my crease, I'm gonna go in with their dark brown right here. Oh, I think I'm saying them backwards. Definitely pretty pigmented. All right, I'm gonna go in with this little fuchsia shade. I think it's called Festival. And I'm just putting it on my outer lash line. There's a little bit of fallout from this, but I think it's more of the brush. And then I'm gonna go into this very sparkly pink shade called Fanny Pack. Purple. Very sparkly purple shade called Fanny Pack. And I'm gonna pop that on my inner corner. It's definitely very periwinkle. A lot of purple sparkles, if you can see. I really like how reflective and sparkly it is. I think I'm going to go in with this light purple shade in the shade Shell. Let's see where it is. This one? I'm putting it in my crease because I feel like that brown is a little too brown and too, I don't know, orangey. There's quite a bit of fallout actually, especially when you're like tapping off the excess, like a lot falls off. I'm putting some on my hand to see the true color and it's really like grayish. It's right here. It's kind of like grayish. It's not really that purple. Interesting. Very interesting. I kind of want to brighten the lid. So I'm using like a sparkly pink that they have and popping that on my lid. Their sparkles are very sparse for sure. Very sparkly still. I don't know. I don't know if it's because of the colors I'm using. It's just not really giving me anything, like giving me the same vibes as I was feeling yesterday. And it could be the colors I'm choosing to use. Definitely, you know what I mean? I definitely think I muddied up the crease a little bit too much. I also feel like the colors are just not as vibrant, so I think that's also affecting how I feel about this. So with an angled brush, I'm gonna go in with that very dark shimmery purple, and I'm gonna try to do a wing with that. Not as pigmented. Wet my brush with some water and see if that does anything. It's just very subtle. It's very subtle. Definitely not as pigmented as it looks in the palette. I don't know. Not just my eye look. I know I look like Barney kind of threw up on my eyes. But for how little pigment I'm getting from this, I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I'm going back in with a sparkly purple now with this dense brush. See if it'll do anything. And like there's fallout now. I don't know. I don't know. Like maybe it's fun for like accent colors, but maybe not for like a whole eye look. I don't. I'm gonna tightline my upper waterline. I'm just adding that fuchsia color to my lid because I feel like at least that one does something. It's bright enough, you know? And I do like this periwinkle, you know, sparkle on the inner corner. I'm going to go in with the NYX Jumbo Eye Pencil in the shade Frosting. And with a clean pencil brush, I'm going to go in with that dark purple sparkly shade that I've been trying to use on my like crease and wing, just to see if maybe it'll be better by itself. They're just very light, like they're very neon. Like having the champagne like eye pencil underneath is helping it pop a little bit. But they're not very like pigmented. You know what I mean? You know what? I think I messed it up with the brown, honestly. I don't feel like this is an accurate view. I'm gonna take off my eye makeup and we're gonna start over. So I'm gonna be going with more of like a periwinkle purple fairy look vibe. So I'm gonna go in with mainly these 4 colors right here, the purples. I feel like these purples perform better on their own. If you can see like in my waterline, there's still some purple. So that's why I took everything off, because it just wasn't looking right. And we're gonna start over and see the true potential of these guys. So I'm gonna go in with the matte lighter purple first into my crease. Come on, please be good. And there is a little bit of fallout. Like there's quite a bit of powder that comes off when you pick it up with your brush and tap off the excess. Like there's a lot of excess that comes out. They're definitely buildable. And I don't have a base on my eyelids. I just have a little bit of concealer on them. And I'm gonna go in with that top purple sparkly shade and put that in my inner corner. That's what I had in there already. So I'm just popping this in there so it looks a little less crazy. And I really do like this shade. It's very like periwinkle, purple, sparkly, like very pretty sparkle shade. It's definitely more like individual glitters. All right, I'm gonna go in with a dark purple sparkly shade. Run that on my outer corner. And maybe this one does better like when you press it in like this. I mean, it is a glittery shade, so, you know, I understand why you wouldn't use this as like a crease shade, but there's, you know, not really a deep purple in here for me to use in my crease. I'm gonna use that deep purple with my finger. You see, it looks so dark in the pan, but it's actually like that very ultraviolet look. You see how ultraviolet it looks on my eyes? And I mean, using it with my fingers, it is very pretty, this shade. I think, didn't like Crayola have an ultraviolet marker way back when, and it was like the prettiest color. Everyone in my class would always like fight over using that color. I think it must have been like pre-K. I don't know why I remember this, but this color definitely reminds me of that. All right, it's beautiful on the lid when I use my fingers, but this just isn't the look that I was trying to go for. But I feel like in order to make these eyeshadows work, this is the look we are doing now. And I wonder if I could go in with a matte purple and if it will deepen up this sparkle shade on the crease. I wanted to like this so much, but it's just not doing what I wanted to, which is pretty disappointing. So it makes it like kind of hard to work with, you know? I'm gonna go in with the NYX Jumbo pencil in the shade Frosting and run that on my lower waterline. And I'm going back in with that dark purple glittery shade. Like when there's a base to it, like the champagne, it looks pretty, but on its own it's not doing much. Which is disappointing because, I mean, yes, a lot of eyeshadows say use a primer, it'll make it look better. But I feel like the quality of eyeshadows nowadays, you don't necessarily need a primer for the eyeshadows to show up on your eyes, you know? So I'm gonna use the Jumbo eye pencil and kind of map out a wing on my upper lash line so that this eyeshadow can stick to it. I don't know. Because if you have to be so specific to use these bright shades and they don't work well together, it's kind of a waste because what, you're gonna use only like one or two of the sparkly shades each time and like the rest is just gonna be the browns and neutrals. It's kind of boring, you know? Like with such a fun palette, you want to be able to use like all the colors, like at least do a whole purple eye look. Whereas I feel like I can't even do that because there's not enough dark shades, and I could use brown to go up and deepen up the crease, but that's why I took off my makeup the first time, because I had brown on underneath and the purples weren't showing up and it looked very like muddy. So I thought they would perform better on their own, and I mean they do, but is this necessarily a look that you want to go for? Like this wasn't the purple look I was going for, and I think I had to change directions because of the performance of this palette. And now I'm just topping it off with that periwinkle shade on top because I feel like that purple is just not doing it for me. So disappointing. Because I really wanted to like this. And I'm not saying it's ugly. I think it's just difficult to work with. I think there's a lot of limitations with this palette. And there's so much fallout, like all over my desk. There's just powder all over my desk. I'm gonna tightline my upper waterline with a black eyeliner. And I'm gonna use a brown liquid liner and make a wing. I think it's also disappointing because I wanted to do a very different eye look than what this is, but because of the limitations of the eyeshadow, I kind of got pushed back into doing like a very like basic eye look pretty much, and only using like one or two of the eyeshadows. Like, I don't think this eyeshadow palette is a like one and done type palette. There are some pretty colors, or like the neutrals are pretty one and done. Like, you can do a pretty neutral eyeshadow look, and then you can do like one sparkle on your inner corner and like use that as a pop of color. But if you wanted to do a full-blown like colorful look, unless it's like a very specific type of look, like I don't think you can do that with all of the colors in this palette. Like, if you were doing a fully colorful look, you'd have to dip into maybe another palette or be very limited to the choices that you can use, like the color palette that you can use. Like, it definitely looks like there are more blues, so you could probably do like a blue look, but I was trying to do a purple look and this is not it. And of course, like, if you were just doing like a pretty basic eye look with the purples, you could probably get away with it. But again, like, you can't be very artistic with this because I don't know, I just don't love the way the eyeshadows sit on the skin. I don't like the amount of pigment. Like, you can only use it as a lid color essentially. You have to pack it on with your fingers. You can't really use a brush. It's not really gonna show up. Like, I don't like that. You know, maybe I wasn't being fair. Maybe if I did do a look similar to yesterday's. Here, let's try that. We're already like halfway there. And then I were to go in with the dark purple shade, try to deepen that up. Right, kind of. So there's a very specific way you have to wear these eyeshadows. You can't really do more artistic looks of just like purple wing on the outside, like just pops of purple. It has to be like pretty full-blown, committed to one color. I'm using that lighter purple all over my lower waterline, and there's just so much fallout. There's just glitter all over my face. Going back in with a darker one. But you see what I mean? Like, the darker purple shows up better on my lower lash line than it is in my crease. Like, it's not like, this is like purple, like a neon purple, but when you're putting it on the lid, like, I don't know if it's because this brush is just more dense, it just doesn't show up the same way. And I definitely wanted to do like a more understated look, you know what I mean? And I don't think the eyeshadows allow you to do that. Like, you kind of just have to use the eyeshadows to do this look. I don't know. And besides that periwinkle color, the rest is just like okay, you know? And there's just not much to go with after this. Like, I could go in with that, what, fuchsia shade? That's not very nice. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's just me, but the colors just aren't very cohesive for a purple pink look. Again, there's definitely more blues to choose from, but for having 4 shades of purple, you would think that you could do like different types of looks. And yeah, like, because the sparkly shades just aren't that creamy, you gotta pick it up with your fingers. They don't really translate well with a brush. I'm not giving up on it. I'm definitely gonna try more looks than this, but as a first impression, the Hard Candy palette of the monochrome shadows, I think definitely take the cake. I would rather spend my $13 buying 3 of those palettes versus 1 of this. You know what I'm saying? Let me contour my face, bring the whole look together. Because I'm definitely a harsh judge when it comes to trying things for the first time. So I might have just been a little harsh on this palette. I'm gonna try a few more times to do a different look than just this eye look and see if it can perform. And you guys know what I mean by like this eye look. It's just like shadows on my lid and my crease, all kind of like the same color and like a rounded shape. It's not very, like, it's fun, but it's not as artistic. And I definitely feel like if the eyeshadows were a little more pigmented and worked a little better with a brush, I would be able to have done just a little bit of a different look. I mean, for this it's quite pretty, but I think you'd be quite limited to what you can do with this palette. Like I said, I'm gonna try again and play around with it again, especially when I don't like something on my first impression. I want to give it another chance and try to see if I could do something a little different. And I do feel like their purples are pretty. I'm not, you know, knocking them completely. I also think their neutrals are really pretty, and their neutrals blend out quite well. Like, it'd be a good palette to have for that. But you know those eyeshadows that are so pigmented that you can make a wing out of it, and not even like a really bold wing, but like just drawing it on your eye, you can tell there's something on your face. This one didn't really do that. And I bet you can work with it, like use a primer or, you know, but I don't think the colors are cohesive enough to make a look by itself if you want a colorful like purple look. But again, I'm gonna try again. I'm gonna try again tomorrow because, you know, first impressions can be wrong, and it's not like awful. On my lips is the e.l.f. lip liner in the shade, it's a pink something, pinky something. Why is there no color? I'll have it linked down below. And I have the Fenty lip gloss in the shade Fussy. And this is the finished look. I do want to say that like light purple periwinkle shade is very pretty on the inner corners. Very pretty color in general. The purples are like a really pretty ultraviolet purple, and the glittery purple on my lower lash line is also really pretty as a shade. I just wish it looked like what it does on my lower lash line on my upper lash line too. Like, I really wanted to go for that look, but for some reason it just wasn't showing up. Maybe I'll try again with another base, like, you know, having a base on my upper lash line and my lid. But blendability is okay. There's quite a bit of kick up and fallout. The glitters are a little glittery. Not like that's a bad thing. I actually don't mind that. But I think overall I was just a little disappointed by the way it performed with a brush. It didn't pick up colors well, and yeah, it kind of threw me for a loop. I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna keep using it. I'm gonna try it again in the next video. I'm gonna try to do a different look with some of the other colors and see if it'll work. But overall, the purples are pretty. I will give them that. And the neutrals are blendable. But really, if I had $13, I would spend those $13. As of right now, I would use those $13 to buy 3 of the hard candy palettes instead of buying one big one of this. You know? If you've tried it before, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below if you found a way to make them work. But I'll use them again. This is not my final judgment, just my first impression. It's just did not impress me. So yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you next time. Bye.